Kwesi Indum had always dreamed of transforming Ghana's financial landscape. With a vision of empowering the underserved and bringing banking to the most remote corners of the country, he founded GN Bank. Born out of his passion for inclusive growth, GN Bank sought to redefine banking for ordinary Ghanaians. It provided loans to farmers, small business owners, and micro entrepreneurs, opening over 300 branches to serve even the smallest villages. In every market square, GN Bank stood as a symbol of hope, promising financial inclusion where traditional banks hesitated to tread. By the mid-2010s, GN Bank had become one of Ghana's largest financial institutions. It boasted a strong presence in rural areas, enabling customers to save securely and access credit with relative ease. For countless families, it was more than a bank. It was a bridge to dreams that once seemed unreachable. Kwesi Indum, with his eloquence and passion, became a household name, widely admired not only for his financial acumen but also for his dedication to national progress. Yet behind the scenes, the challenges mounted. The Ghanaian banking sector was facing turbulence, with many small bankers struggling under the weight of rising debt, insufficient capitalization, and regulatory pressures. The government, determined to stabilize the sector, introduced stringent new capitalization requirements for banks. Institutions were required to raise their capital base or merge with other entities. For GN Bank, this was a difficult hurdle. While its rich and customer base were vast, its reserves were stretched thin. Much of its liquidity was tied up in loans to small-scale borrowers, loans that were slow to be repaid, if at all. As news of the regulatory pressures leaked, GN Bank's customers became nervous. Some withdrew their savings, creating a liquidity crunch that worsened the bank's situation. Kwesi Indum worked tirelessly to stabilize the institution. He sought partners, courts, international investors, and appealed to the government for support. His speeches, once filled with optimism, now carried a weight of desperation. "We cannot let this institution fail," he would say. "This is not just a bank, it is a lifeline for many." But Ghana's financial regulators were unyielding. GN Bank was placed under scrutiny, with demands for restructuring and proof of stability. Indum poured his personal fortune into saving the bank, mortgaging properties, selling off assets, and sacrificing other business interests. He was determined to meet the new capital requirements, but time was running out. The weight of debt and non-performing loans bore down like an anchor, pulling the institution deeper into crisis. In early 2019, the inevitable happened. GN Bank was reclassified as a savings and loan company, a significant downgrade from its status as a fully fledged bank. The move was meant to give it some breathing room, but it was a symbolic blow. Customers panicked. Depositors swarmed branches demanding their money. Security personnel struggled to control the crowds, and staff members, some of whom had worked for GN Bank since its inception, broke down in tears. The vision of financial inclusion that had once ignited hope now seemed to flicker and fade. The collapse of GN Bank was more than a downfall of an institution. It was a national tragedy. Rural communities, which had relied heavily on its services, were left stranded. Farmers could no longer access the credits they needed for their crops. Small business owners saw their dreams evaporate overnight. Families struggled, and the trust in Ghana's financial system was severely shaken. For many, the promise of financial inclusion seemed more distant than ever. In the weeks following GN Bank's collapse, Kwesi Indum was a man changed. The once charismatic leader now carried himself with the burden of a dream deferred. He faced scrutiny and criticism, with accusations of mismanagement, poor risk assessment, and overexpansion haunting him. Yet, those who knew him best saw a man whose heart broke not for himself, but for every customer and employee who had believed in him and his vision. Indum tried to rebuild. He engaged with legal teams, sought to recover assets, and explored a path to revive the shattered institution. But the road was long and steep. In interviews, his voice carried both remorse and resilience. "I do not regret trying to change lives," he said in one tearful conversation. "But I do regret that I could not do more to protect what we built." The story of GNbank's collapse is a cautionary tale of ambition meeting harsh reality, of dreams and obstacles colliding in a rapidly changing regulatory environment. For Ghana, it was a moment of reckoning, sparking conversations on the future of banking, rural development, and the balance between growth and sustainability. And for Pape Sibindo, it was a chapter of loss, perseverance, and a hope that one day, perhaps, the seeds of his vision might find fertile ground again.